What is television as defined today? Is it cable, Netflix, YouTube? Is it your LED, your tablet, or a smartphone? Did the rapid proliferation of content consumption result solely because of a similarly rapid increase in types of screens? What are the best stories and storytellers gravitating towards television? Television is no longer limited to linear storytelling, as many of today's formats embrace social media and retail therapy. India's television industry is years behind the West, but from 1 to 500 channels, I was told about 1,000 now, in about 20 years, there is no denying the behemoth that it is. As television borders disappear, what opportunities beyond format trading exist? So in this session, we will be discussing growth of television industry, various models for international collaboration, traditional and emerging broadcasting models. So I think, Shekhar, you might want to just say a few words on this.
No, we're running late, so I'm going to throw it open to the panel straight away. In context of convergence, in context of social media, I know that everybody, wherever I go, talks about the great move into television in the United States, and Bad Robot. Yeah? Amazing. We met, right? At Bad Robot, correct. So is television under threat? Is convergence with social media and with other forms with the cell phone, is television also under threat? Or at a time when everybody thinks television is just coming alive with all the filmmakers and storytellers gravitating to TV? Who wants to take that on?
Yeah. We have Sujeet Jain, from, he's a Group General Counsel for Viacom 18. Maybe you want to take a shot at it? Got a lot of experience on that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Nishith. Let me quickly introduce myself. I am a Group General Counsel for Viacom 18 in India. We are pretty much one of the top film studios in the country. Plus, we are also a leading broadcaster in India. So I work on both the sides of the business. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus my thoughts and my comments more with respect to India, because lots been spoken about the US. There are eminent speakers on the panel who can talk about the US part. Two things I'm going to answer. Shekhar, I'll come to a question next. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly talk about what does the India growth story really means for a television broadcasting. Going to throw at some numbers which I believe are relevant and pertinent at this stage. There are close to 800 television channels in India. They were not even half 4 or 5 years ago. At any point of time, there are 100 applications pending with the government to launch new television channels. I won't be surprised if in the next 4 to 5 years, we have 1,200 or 1,300 television channels in India. What does it mean? I think, Shekhar, you made a point about the aspiring Indian. The aspiring Indian today is looking for more and more a niche kind of content that is enabling the broadcaster to launch more and more channels, and that's why we are seeing this kind of growth in India. Let's quickly talk about the current story. So the television broadcasting, the revenues on two sides, right? The ad sales and the subscription side. The current ad rate growth is around 13–14%. I see this continuing for next 4 or 5 years and even beyond. That's staggering growth. And the reason for this kind of ad sales growth in India is because the economy per se is doing very well, and therefore the ad rate. It's a very important development, which will be very important for this audience to know, that India never had an ad inventory cap. This means you could run as much advertisement you want. 12 months back, the regulator came up with an announcement where you can't have more than 12 minutes per hour, which is there in any other part of the world. It is very important from the growth perspective that if you don't have the inventory cap, the ad markets can't grow. So this is this is a very interesting and which is very important phenomena that has happened in India. As we are talking about the future of television channel, let me give a great example of the e-tailing we spoke about. I see a convergence between the e-tailing and the broadcasting. 3 weeks ago, we just launched the Indian version of Big Brother. It's called Big Boss in India. First time, it's not the Vodafone Shekhar, it's a Snapdeal who is the lead sponsor of the show. I mean, we all e-tailers in India never had so much of money to sponsor the shows like Big Boss. That's happening. I believe it's a matter of time that television will enable the transactions. It's today, you look at the television and you go and buy in the shops. But the future trend could be that with the interconnected world we live in, the television shows, you may be able to enable the transaction. That's a pretty much the growth on the ad sales side. Let me very quickly come to, given the paucity of the time, on a very important aspect of the India growth story is on the distribution side. I think the maximum growth is going to come on the distribution side. I expect the distribution growth to be in the region of 16 to 17%, okay, for next 4 or 5 years for India. I mean, there are 140 million pay television households in the country. That just represents 50% of the population, or even lesser than that. Therefore, in US, you have more than 90% penetration. That suggests that there's a tremendous growth opportunity on the distribution side in the India. There are a lot of US companies on the broadcasting side in India, but there are very few US companies, according to me, on the television distribution side in India, and there lies an opportunity. A very important announcement in this regard, and according to me, this is the single most important initiative which will change, or which is changing the television landscape in India, that is digitization. Nishith, I'm going to take a minute to explain this. It's very important for this audience to know that. 2 years ago, the government of India announced the digitization. 50% of the market is still analog. So this announcement was pretty important, and therefore we are moving from analog regime to digital regime. That's a cornerstone for the growth of television sector in India. We are through with the 50%, and in next 2 years' time, the 100% of the country is going to get digitized. And I tell you why it is so significant. In the analog era in India, there's a 50% under-declaration. What does it mean? If the cable operator is collecting the money from 100 subscribers, he would only declare 50. But in the digital era, it will be very, very difficult for him or for them to do that. This, according to me, is going to give a growth in the range of 20% plus on the distribution side. The broadcaster will see the revenue growing 20% plus. Okay. Coming to the last point very quickly on is television going to stay? Television is going to stay. I mean, let's remember, television is more a social medium than an entertainment. It is not surprising to me that now it is getting interconnected with the social world, because it's a curiosity to connect yourself to beyond your family. And that's why people watching the television at the same time, they're going on social media and looking at that stuff. So this phenomena is going to continue. In fact, we are today paying much more money for the television rights than we were paying 2 years ago. That should clearly suggest that television is going to stay. What is going to happen really is there'll be more and more content consumption happening across the parallel platform. What we call in technical sense is an authenticated platform, and therefore the content provider will be able to get more and more money out of the same piece of content. I'll stop at this point of time, and I'll take questions later.
Thank you, Jay. I think, can we have some, Jay Chandrasekhar is director, Supertroopers, Beerfest, and Duke has had maybe some comment. So who's, all right. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Oh, I'm sorry, that's how you, I never commit mistakes, I only commit blunders. So, okay, maybe I can have one of you talk about it. Maybe Shekhar, you can.
I'm waiting
anyone
for
whom you want to.
Any one of you take over. We had a long discussion this morning with full screen. And we had a long discussion about how YouTube stars are the biggest stars in America. So the question really is, while you say television will not disappear, of course it won't disappear, but how much of your market, how much of your presence is being eroded by kids that are now not watching television, they're watching YouTube and the YouTube stars. What stops a kid from coming up with a story and creating a channel for themselves which competes with your channel? If the kid's good, they won't watch, you know, kids go to them, they don't come to television. That's the question, yeah.
Well, I think that's a very good question, and the fact is that everybody in entertainment is competing with everybody else. And, you know, certainly streaming television is not going to go away anytime soon, certainly not in India. The biggest media companies in India are all television companies. You know, they fund, in large part, the production of feature films. A meeting I had this morning about a $12 million film, or we discussed a $12 million film. The cable and satellite television rights, you know, are sold for almost $8 million, right? So 2/3 of the budget of the film can often be covered by the TV rights alone in a country like India. You know, as I say, you know, when you look at where the future of television, as this conference is talking about the future of entertainment and media, you know, clearly people want to watch what they want to watch, when and how and where they want to watch it, and that's a great thing, and we always have to keep the consumers first and foremost in our minds. And, you know, clearly it will go the direction of video on demand. In this country, in the United States, you have huge success with Netflix on a subscription video on demand model. At this point in India, because of the, I should say, the reticence of Indians to pay for specific pieces of content online, over the top, you know, probably it'll be advertising video on demand for the next number of years. Little by little, some services are offering subscription, and they will start to get monies from people. If they offer something unique, people will pay. We're already seeing, you know, the development in the television industry where it was completely an advertising-supported medium to one where subscription accounts for about 40% of the revenue, 60% coming from advertising for traditional TV channels. So, you know, that was a new thing. When I was launching the Sony channels 20 years ago in India, there was no subscription revenue. It was all advertising. Everyone said it'll be a long time before anyone ever actually gets any subscription money out of them. And it wasn't that long. You know, it started probably a little more than a dozen years ago that people were getting substantial subscription revenue. And now it's pretty much the same ratio as it is in this country and around the developed world. You know, where this is all going is that with the improved infrastructure for fiber optic network in India and the you know, development of 4G, the investments by the Reliance Group, the Mukesh Ambani Reliance Group, and Bharti and others, you're going to have that conversion of 850, 900 million mobile phones within the next 12 to 24 months convert largely into smartphones. You will have 400 million smartphones sold in India in the next 12 to 24 months. And people will start watching the films and TV shows that they love on those smartphones. They'll also watch user-generated stuff. And so they should. I mean, the world is full of stories that are not being told because of the, you know, the sort of bottleneck that happens in terms of going through to get things produced at a studio or a television station. I think it's wonderful that the user-generated thing is coming out, because you'll find new directors, producers, you know, talent all the way along that will then be the stars of the future for film and television in a more traditional sense.
But can I add to one thing? There's a lack of terminology here that's a little bit confusing. Number one is we are talking about television, but the definition of television has evolved. So what we are really talking about is video consumption. So today you could be watching it on your big screen television, you could be watching on your mobile, iPad, whatnot. The question that was kind of initially asked is, when you have YouTube of the world, is it going to kill networks like ABC, CBS, or even TNT? And the question is, I think someone said it, the answer is no. Because Disney bought Makers, and I have been talking to the people from Maker. One of the things, there is a confusion out there that there are more similarities between Makers and ABC Studio then there are differences. There are a lot of things that we can learn from them that we are really good at it. We are very good in creating and telling the story. They have learned very good in distributing it to the people at any time, anywhere you want them. However, if you look at the user profile of people, like whether it's makers or any other network on YouTube, it's very different. Some of the biggest network is literally someone unpacking boxes, and they have millions of users. You can't do that on, whether it's, forget about niche cable network and let alone a broadcast network. So the question is, what are the things that we can learn? They are certainly disruptive, and the question is, are they destructive? And I would say that they are certainly a disruptive force, not a destructive force. And there is going to be, and again, you know, television, we really have to break it down. I'm getting into the technical. You have the network and the studio. So yes, network has to share the lane with all other platforms, which could mean Netflix, Hulu, you know, several YouTube channels. But when you look at from the studio perspective, I am happy to produce it for anyone who wants the content. I'm producing it for Hulu, I'm producing it for Yahoo, I'm producing it for Netflix. So from my perspective, what is the end of television? If you mean video. Network, yes, their model is different and it will evolve. So we just need to dissect and unbundle what we mean by the word television.
Right. And as a content creator, we look at just stuff we love to see on TV. And this fall there has been we're just in the middle of the networks unveiling their shows, and by and large, people are not that excited by it. The ratings are kind of proof positive, and that just makes you have to work harder. Because when a show is great, when there is a lot of buzz about a show, people will come. People came to see Shonda Rhimes' new show. And if you saw the DVR numbers, they really came to see that show. So when it's good, they will come. We have had a lot of mediocrity and crap out there. There's a lot of crap on YouTube, and people get bored very, very quickly. The audience is much more fickle. We don't necessarily stay with the show for 5, 6, 7 years like we used to. So now we're seeing shows that are good for 12 episodes or 10 episodes, and that's it, and that's good. We just have to figure out a way to monetize that. But people still are very passionate about TV. Back in the days before DVR, it was very commonly regarded that an avid watcher of a television show would watch every 3rd, 4th, or 5th episode. Now, a casual watcher of a TV show who has it DVR'd will watch all of those episodes. So that viewer is much more engaged in that show than ever before. They don't have as much time to watch it day and date. They just watch it differently. They'll watch it on their phone, they'll watch it on their tablet, they'll watch it wherever they can, but they are still consuming. And when you make a really good show, they will come.
Yes.
Well, what I see is an exploding industry. So I'm really not at all worried about television. And I would agree with you. It's partly an issue of definition. I mean, we're not talking about a box in our house anymore. We often talk about television to students as episodic content, as content that is particularly suited for that, whether we're going to watch it on this or whether we're going to watch it on that. I find today that students coming into the school, and Priya Jakumar's here, who is on our faculty and may be far better able to talk about this in relationship to India than I can. But I can certainly tell you from the point of view of our students today, I would say as many of our students want to go into television as into feature. And that was not true 20 years ago. Today, they really would like to be Shonda Rhimes just as much as they would like to be any feature filmmaker. You know, when we look at this last few years, yes, there's a lot of stuff that's not very good, but there's also Breaking Bad and Scandal and Mad Men and True Detective. I mean, shows that have become what I think is, many ways, always been the essence of television in this country. They've become cultural statements. They've become part of our vocabulary about our society. They're things that you have to watch. I can't imagine us not, anybody coming in, you know, get in the office in the morning and everybody wants to talk about whether or not, have you seen the last episode? Well, I don't want to ruin it for you, but the very idea that you haven't seen these things would be very surprising. I think it was true of some earlier shows, certainly West Wing, much earlier shows. The Cosby Show generated some of that kind of water cooler material. But I think what we're seeing is that there's a passion about content creation. Now, we're content creators, okay? We're certainly interested in platforms, and we look at the dynamic interaction between technology and content. But our real interest is, as many of you said, is creating very, very good content that viewers are going to come to in one way or another. You know, looking at it from the perspective of the younger generation that we see going into this industry, which is our job, certainly when I went into this industry, and I suspect a number of you, there were 6 studios and 3 networks. You worked for one of those 9 groups, or you did not work in this country. Now, our students go everywhere, and they're just as excited about the fact that Ted Sarandis is coming to talk in a couple of weeks as they are about any feature filmmaker coming. So, you know, I'm incredibly optimistic. Yes, we need new business models, but I think the only thing likely to sink us is trying to hang on. You know, it always reminds me of if you raft, you know, they tell you never to grab onto the branch at the edge of the river because it'll pull you under. So I think we really have to go with the flow here and look at what consumers want anytime, anywhere. They want that content. But they no longer have to watch bad content. I mean, we're seeing the professionalization of YouTube and things because people want professional content. So no, I don't worry about being replaced by the amateur community, although I think the fact that the amateur community is developed is incredibly exciting because it does bring new talent, it brings different voices, it allows us to use media in a different way. But I've never been more optimistic about the future of television, however you brand it.
I think just to jump in, it's a more a format of the content or the pattern of consumption that is undergoing a change. If it's a good content, whether on a television, and okay, I'm using the word television to more cover all forms of television, okay? It's a format and the pattern of consumption that is changing, right? So Big Boss is as much as, it's one of the very popular show back in India. As I mentioned, it's an Indian version of Big Brother. It's very popular on television, but in episodic form, in a snippets, it's also very popular on YouTube. So that's happening. So what's important from our perspective, because as a broadcaster, we sit on a lot of rights to embrace this pattern, this change, this evolution in our strategy. And if we don't do that, to Shekhar answer your question, yes, then we will lose revenue and we will lose money. But we'll have to recognize that fact that television is here to stay. In addition to that, in fact, it's icing on the cake. There are many more platforms for us to monetize our content.
Well, I think that, you know, people talk about the golden age of television having been, you know, a few decades ago. This clearly is the golden age. It's probably the platinum age because television programming has never been better, to what Elizabeth was saying. And, you know, it's true in this country. It's also true in India. I mean, it started probably when Amitabh Bachchan went into, you know, the Millionaire show, and then it was okay for movie stars to get into television. Before that point, I don't think any movie star worth half a nickel would have, you know, been caught dead being in a TV show, but he sort of opened it up, and that was about 14 years ago, I think. And now, you know, the movie stars all want to get into television. It's steadier work. It's seen by more people. It lives a long life, and you know, for that matter, the quality of the writing is there, and the production values are increasing every year, and it's because there's money there. You know, the television channels make lots of money, and the channels that I started there have been profitable ever since they were launched, and they get increasingly more profitable, much more profitable than any of the big movie studios could be by multiples of 10 times, you know, and the revenues that the big TV channels get are in the hundreds of millions of dollars every year. The Sony bouquet is, you know, over $600 million in revenue in just India alone. So there's no film company that's even close to that. So television's very strong. It's going to get stronger. It works symbiotically with movies. A lot of the film companies are now backed by television companies. The television companies are you know, they're vertically orienting to make feature film, television shows, TV channels, and now some of them are getting into OTT, you know, SVOD, AVOD, you know, video on demand services. So they're not missing the boat that if you can't beat them, you join them. And as Elizabeth said, if you fight the trends of the consumers, you will lose. You have to embrace that, and we're all in this together. It's not like this silo of television versus this other form of entertainment. It's all much more holistic nowadays.
Stephen, I think you would have some perspective on all this.
Well, certainly. We've also noticed viewers are consuming their shows differently. Everybody binge watches. You binge watch, I binge watch. And we are seeing that shows now are no longer closed-ended as they used to be. We have to develop shows that have hooks at the end of the episode so that people will go, oh, just one more. I got to watch one more episode. I think that is a huge development in the progression of television. The other thing we're noticing is that there is a very large younger population that actually wants to watch things when they first come out. They want to be the spoilers. They want to tweet and say, oh my God, did you see this? They want to be first out there, whatever that's called. I'm sure there's a term for that. But that is a thing that we TV producers have embraced. We actually have a writer's room now, and we are responding to all of those tweets when we live tweet just about every episode. So the TV producers now have to get more engaged with the audience. The audience feels more in touch with their television show. So in terms of social media, it is actually a big part of what we as producers are doing. The networks and studios are all encouraging us to do that, and they are actually expecting us to do that because they don't know how to do that. And our people, we love our really, really passionate viewers because they can spread the word out to more people.
Thank you. Naz, you had something to say?
what
Very
I
quickly, yeah?
want to add to that, you know, it would be naive to say nothing is happening in the television world, even if I take the notion of broadcast. There is a negative narrative out there for the network, especially when people read, you know, this is the rating of your biggest show. It's 2, 3, and people are used to seeing 6, 7 rating, and especially when you compare yourself against sports like NFL, they could be doing 8 and 9. So your jerky reaction is, you know, these guys don't know how to produce. I mean, look at the numbers. And let me give you an example. About 7 or 8 years ago when we premiered Lost, last year, it wasn't even a fall show, it was a mid-season show called Resurrection. During that time, all you had was live plus same day, and we had, you know, 7 ratings, can't remember the exact number. Resurrection, when it came out of the door, it was 3.5-ish. So you will say, like, look at Lost, that was your golden age. What's happening here? So I stacked up that when you actually look at the rating from different platforms that people are accessing, and it was exactly the same viewership. So automatically, you know, our corporate will say, fine, when you are doing Lost, you are making X amount, why aren't you not doing exactly the same amount in terms of the revenue? And we do have an issue of monetization. That amount of money that I can generate from my broadcast platform, where the CPM could be, you know, $59 to $50 or $55, I don't get the same CPM on other platforms. And the challenge is because we are, in a way, shackled to Nielsen. If Nielsen say, this is your rating, we say, yes, sir, and we monetize it. So till Nielsen learns how to count viewers in multiple platforms, and we are able to monetize it, we will see that the difference between that time and now is going to be pretty much the same. But in terms of the eyeballs, what I was delivering 10 years ago, I'm still delivering it today. But when you read it in a trade, you see slightly negative because people don't have the holistic view. They are only looking at live plus same day. They are not looking at C3, C7, and on and on. So there is a slightly negative narrative for the network that exists. And, you know, we are fighting, we are educating them. This is not the case, but it's out there. You know, if Variety says it, it has to be true.
I just, you know, at this stage, I just wanted to add a very interesting development on the rating systems in India. And AC Nielsen's company, TAM, has been the only ratings services company in India. But the industry, because of the problems which they're facing with the ratings of TAM in India, now industry has come together and formed a company called Broadcast Audience Research Council. It's a BARC, and they are going to come out with their first rating in January or February of 2015.
Great.
So that's happening.
Wonderful, I think. I think we can open up to some.
Yeah, I have
unconscious.
one question. Is the cost of failure on television gone up?
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the shows are much more expensive than they ever were to produce. You have to deliver ratings that much sooner. And right now, unfortunately, the biggest rating that we look at is the overnights or the lifeless same day. And there's a lot of pressure. The pressure is more on the network executives than it is on the producers and creators, because it's a very crazy environment right now, and it's very competitive. But as we've seen in this last week, when you have great shows on TV, viewers tend to come. But yes, it is very, very expensive to fail.
Yeah, and of course we know, I mean, you have great content on any platform, you'll have it. The cost of failure for the YouTubers is nil.
Right.
You know, and that's one of the reasons it's proliferate so much. So one question before we open, are you worried about the 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds who are not watching television, who are addicted to the YouTubers? That generation that is growing up is watching a completely different set of experiences. It's not just the content, it's their addictions to a particular experience. And so they are experimenting with people who've tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed, and one succeeds. And that one who succeeds can go on and on and on. And we've seen cases like that, of them going on for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then they fail, another one comes up. There is that one addiction to not the storytelling. It's not actually storytelling. It is actually an addiction to an experience they get with one person that comes on, and that person has no cost at all of failure. Is that a worrying aspect for these kids that are coming up and not watching television? That generation.
I mean, as a father of 2 children, one of whom is here in the audience from USC today, you know, I would be concerned that, you know, they would be watching mindless stuff. Thank goodness my son doesn't too much when I'm not looking. I'm not sure. Wait a minute. Anyway, so, you know, I think that, you know, for this new generation, you're right, it is a concerning thing. But it is a great business opportunity again, and so, you know, I'm embracing the multi-channel networks and working with one now, and we're bringing it out to Asia just in the same way that Makers and Machinima have done here in the States. And, you know, this is the biggest multi-channel network that's in Asia right now at the moment. There invariably will be bad, you know, content in there, just like there's bad music, you know, and it's terrible to hear some of the music that some of the young people listen to and the trance and so on, but then you start just sounding like an old fuddy-duddy if you say that. And we don't want to sound like that, do we, Shekhar? No, we don't. So,
I'm not,
so, you know,
I'm not an old fuddy-duddy.
No, we're not. So we got to embrace the new stuff, and from that, great stuff will come.
Yeah.
The sort of democratization of, you know, entertainment that is coming from the low-cost access to you know, making music, making movies, making TV shows has got to produce some very amazing talent that would not have been found otherwise because of the bottlenecks I was referring to otherwise. So yes, while there's a lot of chaff, you know, you have to separate the good and the bad. There's no doubt there'll be a lot of hit and miss, but from that, hopefully some great stuff will rise. And at the end of the day, people want better, well-written content, better music, and so hopefully this stuff does rise up.
And the YouTube community is pretty rough on bad material, so if it's really bad, they suss it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, but the material is different. It's not storytelling. It's addiction to people who come on and do things for them.
Some of it is storytelling.
Some of it is storytelling. Like, they oftentimes will watch TV episodes on YouTube. I think it kind of is more about how they're consuming their entertainment, and they'll watch TV on their digital devices.
Yeah.
They just may not watch it on the TV. You know, so I think there's still going to be you know, we're human nature. We love stories. We consume stories. You know, my 3-year-old niece is already on YouTube, and she's already able to find her favorite cartoons on YouTube. So I think there's still that out there. I think it's just the way in which they're consuming it is different.
But I want to add one thing, what Shekhar is pointing to, and this is just my point of view. I think there is a cause for concern. And we are watching it, and we are, we are worried, because as part of Disney and ABC, brand is important to us. So when you lose that relationship with your audience, forget about whether you're watching Scandal or How to Get Away with Murder. We want you to build a relationship with ABC as a platform. So when you look at the statistics, when I look at it on a weekly basis, which says, if you look at 18 to 49, 60% of the viewers watch live content, which is great. When you look at millennial, which is 14 to 34, they watch only 40% of it. So there is a good 20% delta, and this is, we're talking about average age of 18 or 19 years old. When I go further down, there is 1 in 3 kids who does not watch television, period. So if that's their pattern, if that's the way they consume it, then they may watch a show, they may watch a particular show, they may like a scandal, but I don't want that. I actually want them to come and stay with ABC all the time. And that I am losing it. You don't have, like your father, your grandfather, the relationship that they had with ABC, CBS, or NBC today the way we used to it. And it is, for brand managers, is an important factor. And we are kind of losing that battle, and we are concerned about it.
Let me ask you, I just have a question. Are you defining not watching television as not watching it on a channel real time? I mean, are you saying that if they're watching it here, they're not watching it?
There's a 2-point to it. And I'm going to speak from 2 sides of my...
If you can be a little quick, that would be helpful.
So if I'm a studio, it doesn't really matter. Because if I'm creating the content, I can sell it to whoever wants it. But as a network, then it does matter where you're watching it. Because if I sell my content to Netflix, the studio makes the money, but not the network.
No, I guess I'm trying to ask where your statistic, when you say 1 out of 3 don't watch television, do you mean they don't watch the content on any device?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. In fact, we all talk about media and entertainment, but one major piece is education. And we have used our Nishith.tv to distribute our content. All of this you see, a lot we do. Because we have one time, entertainment time in the evening, but we have almost 12 hours of office time. And if we can use television to do office work, I think that helps. That was our theory, and we can't come to Viacom 18 and distribute our, it's a boring stuff we distribute. Okay, so
I mean, just to that point, the Khan Academy is online, and it's fantastic.
Khan Academy, absolutely. I think that has become another part, because you can now eat into the office time, by the way. Very quickly. and then
Here in the U.S., when we talk about television, it's all English language, and things don't change a whole lot by geography. In India, you have multiple languages, channels in multiple languages, multiple geographies. Are the phenomenon that you're describing and the patterns and the trends, does it cross all geographies and all languages? Is there a difference in English language channels or Telugu or Tamil, or, you know, how is it different by virtue of all of these different definitions of television in India? Maybe for Bill and Sujeet.
I think it's same across country. The only difference is it's a different kind of content. So Hindi is obviously the main language channel across country. So except the south of the country, rest of the country speaks and understands Hindi. So Hindi works across country as a channel. South language channels also, in terms of phenomena of platforms, technology evolving, it's all same. That's true. It's just that the kind of content is different in different part of the country.
Yeah, more than being linguistically determined, it's more infrastructurally determined. In other words, you know, in the cities, in the metros, you already have 4G in 5 cities in India. You can get it. I use it, and it's still not as fast and as good as it should be, but you know, it certainly is a lot better than the experience where you're watching things online through your computer, which is just mind-numbingly painful in India, right, if you're talking about going through a PC. So India will leapfrog from a point where they are now, where you have very few smartphones because there's nothing to watch there, right? There's no access. And as this infrastructure, as I was saying, you know, is being built out over the next 12 to 24 months, you're going to see the ballooning of sales of smartphones in that country, and at low cost. And so then people will start consuming those kinds of content that we're talking about all across the country, in the rural areas, in the smaller towns, which currently do not have access, good access, let's say, to the internet as it is today. Not good enough to watch content being streamed through the internet.
Yeah, please. Tell your name and quickly.
Hi, my name is Milan Agarwal. This is a question more about programming, and as it relates to the question, or the point of building a brand with 12 to 13-year-olds, has there already been discussion from a network standpoint of streaming your channels live on platforms that younger people access in order to maybe use ad inventory that was previously dead space, or timing slots that were previously dead space, to program content that appeals to younger generations. I'm thinking of something like an Adult Swim type of content, late night programming that previously, is where shows go to die, could be better utilized to capture the eyeballs of people that you think you're losing out on.
I think definitely that's an idea, and that's why advertorials and all this kind of business goes on late at night for those people who are trying to find some kind of content that some people want to watch that they can't bring to the people through better time slots in the day. But I think that for that kind of cutting edge stuff, on television, late night is a good place, and as PVRs are starting to penetrate deeper into markets around the world, the personal video recorder, like a TiVo kind of a thing, then yeah, people can watch those things that are brought to them during that hour. But those late hours when they're probably sleeping, you can program it so you don't have to stay up all night to watch it. But I think that, through the on-demand sort of infrastructure that I was talking about that's being built out now, and huge companies. There are probably 8 companies right now that are massive companies that are doing the video on demand business in India. None of them really have it right. The biggest one has about 2 million viewers, but there's no doubt that with the infrastructure being built out and with the big companies that are getting into that space, and it's something that I'm working right now for our partners with Lionsgate to try to figure out what's going on there in this space. No doubt that a lot of the studios are going to be jumping in from this country, and all the Indian studios as well are going to be embracing it, and more people are going to be watching stuff on demand, and they don't have to stay up all night.
I think we are running short of time. Only one thing, we can go democratic. So if you all agree to half an hour extension after this, only if you agree, then we carry forward. At least Daley has to leave very soon. But if we are already about 15 minutes late, so a democratic process, are we okay? You got dinner here, especially for that purpose, we set up dinner so that you are not in a hurry. So do I take it that we'll extend our whole day by half an hour? How many of you want to do that? Otherwise, we stop right now. Okay, it seems that majority of the people are there. So so we are relaxing the rule in a democratic way. And if Jason, no, it's just a little bit here. So because there are a few people who want to have a question, we are also waiting for Jason to come in. So I think that's another reason. But okay, so we have some more time for comments and questions. And I think Gauri, you had something very quick.
Yeah, I think taking from what Ken said, definitely there is, in India you have to consider, regional market. But I think the other phenomena we see here is niche channel are coming up in a big way. Earlier we had more of general entertainment channels, but now you have, special food channels, etc., which we see. The other important thing that I notice is on the sports side. We had, cricket being the religion of the country, that was one sport which was watched, throughout the country. But what I notice is because of the rights are getting very, very expensive, the channels have realized that it is important to hook the audience to other sports as well. And Pro Kabaddi has been a very good example, where now after cricket, that is the second most watched sport in just one season. So I think that is another phenomena that from the, how the viewers are getting driven by the television companies or the content companies to get hooked to different sports as well.
Yeah. Just before response is given, I think Jason is outside, so he'll be coming in very soon. But now please go ahead, just for the information of all.
No, this was only a comment.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No, I agree with you, Gauri. That's
yeah. All right. Yeah.
Hi,
If you
Sujeet,
can be a little quick, that would be
Sujeet,
fine.
this is a question for you. Viacom, obviously, thank you for introducing the whole distribution of it. It's like the backbone of the industry, and many few people know about how digitization is making a huge difference. But this is more about programming. You have a 24 remake. You have a Grey's Anatomy being remade. Is it because we have lack of writers who are writing great content there, or is it because it just makes a good deal to get it for the English language channel and get a remake right? why is content being, why are we copying content from here? And it's, like you had a 24 remake, which was very expensive production for Viacom. I don't know about how profitable it was, but why can't we have a concept which originates out of India, or writers coming from here going reverse and going there and creating content?
Okay, so let me quickly comment on that. Firstly, I don't think we are copying the content from the West. There are some relevant and important formats which exist across the globe. So obviously, let's remember that every format, if you look at the Indian version of Big Brother, it's completely different from the Big Brother show you will see anywhere in the world. Dancing with the Star, completely different version.
Yeah, those are reality shows. I'm talking about absolute drama-led shows.
So absolute drama, I don't see, I think there is a original content being available across all the channels. I don't think there are any, there could be sporadic one or two examples, but it's all original content. Let's remember that India is very strong on its culture and sensibility, and that a lot of content which is produced in India is suitable to, like a lot of subjects like child marriage. You know, Colors, which is one of the top television channels in the country, launched 7 years ago. I mean, it was a revolution when we launched the channel in the country. We launched with the show and the kind of issues which were unheard of in the country. We started with the issues which are touching upon the women as a subject in the country, and we did phenomenally well. And I think all those ideas were original.
I mean,
Okay, I think.
just to that one point, you know, I'm looking at Indian films for the last couple of months. I've seen dozens, and we're looking for remakes over in this direction to come from India into Hollywood.
That's interesting to know. That's what I was requesting.
Interesting.
What is the reverse flow?
Very soon we will have Jason Bloom and Shekhar Kapur. I think we'll have a little dialogue with him. And I really didn't want to cut short anything because I think it's unconference, so it's slightly unstructured as well. But at the moment, let us close this session. I really want to thank each one of you. It's been brilliant, I think. Thank you. And please do stay on. All of you are welcome for dinner, besides other discussions. Thank you so much.